Your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and so happy to be here with you this morning. We have a special parent-to-parent talk that we're going to be doing with you today. I know we haven't done one of those in a while, but we have a couple of these coming up in a row, and today we're going to be talking specifically about setting up for summer success. What you can be doing right now in May, because it's May 8th. Is that what it is? It's May 8th. It seems like it's much later than that. It's May 8th, and things you can be doing right now this month to set up summer success. And when you set up summer success, you set up fall success. It's like a domino, it just falls. So we're going to talk about this at length, and but I'm also going to share with you what's happening the rest of this week and next week. I do want to say too, that we're going to be doing another parent-to-parent on Monday where it's like the second half of this, where we're going to talk about finishing the school year strong, about all the things that you need to do and get in line right now to finish the school year, including I have the best tip for a gift, a year-end school gift for all the teachers and the aides and whatever, and it's free. So I'm going to be doing that on Monday. But today we're going to be talking about setting up for some summer success. Susie B! Good morning. How are you? So thrilled to be with you guys. Want you to know we're live right now on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And again, it is Wednesday, May 8th, and we're so excited to be here live. Chris, our fabulous Chris Desmond, is starting to put on the screen some of the different ways that you can catch the live show and some of the ways that you can listen to the podcast, because we do podcast audio only, and we're available wherever you get your podcast. It's a free download. I always say, though, expect for there to be advertising on that free download. That is literally how we make it free for you. If that is, I hope you embrace that. I hope that's lovely for you, because it's free. But if that is annoying to you and you're like, I really would like to have it ad-free, you can. You can go to glow.fm, glow.fm/autism live. It's $5 a month, but if you pay for it for the year, it's cheaper than that. And when you subscribe to this service, you will get everything that the Autism Network does. That's Autism Live, that's Ask Dr. Doreen, that's all the Let's Talk movies, that's Let's Talk all the things with Rachel and Shannon. That means you get stories from the spectrum. We have today's hyperfixation coming up if you watch Monday's show, and soon we're going to have Autismo y Comunidad. So all of those you get with the same price, but you get them ad-free. That's glow.fm/autism live. So check that out. You know, one of the things that we like to talk about before the shows is that our mission here at Autism Network is to provide information and inspiration. And the community that we want to provide that to starts with individuals who are on the spectrum themselves. They are the beating heart of our community. But we also include in that community everyone who loves those individuals. We want to be good allies, right? And along the way, those allies, like myself, I'm a proud pony, parent of a neurodiverse individual, we have challenges that we meet as well. I always like to delineate that the challenges are not our kids. We love our kids, right? The challenge becomes being able to support them and help them to do what they need, and that's very individualistic, right? But you got to jump through some hoops and fill out paperwork and stand in the line, plus which just know what it is that will help your child and where to go to find the resources and the support. That's stressful. And it's stressful because we care so much about being a good ally for that individual that we love on the spectrum. So we include everybody in our programming and try to think about needs for all of those people. Today, this is a parent-to-parent talk, but it doesn't mean that other people can't appreciate it. But this is really geared towards me as a parent talking to those of you in our viewing and listening audience who are parents also. Thinking of ways that we can kind of, jumpstart success, but not have to rethink it from the ground up and reinvent the wheel. One of the things that I learned early on was that it was really important for me to touch base with other parents and say, what are you doing that's working? How did you get through this thing? What can I do? What have you heard about, so that I can help be the best ally that I can help my child, my teen, my adult on the autism spectrum to be able to do all the things that they find important, right? So today we're really talking about setting up for summer success. Now, obviously, this is not a one-size-fits-all because some of you are setting up for summer success and you have a 3-year-old. Some of you are setting up for summer success and you have a child who's going to go to kindergarten in the fall. And summer success is really important to you right now. Some of you have a child that's 7 and, the issues and the challenges are different, right? And then for those of you who have teens and adults, the issues become different. So it can't be one size fits all, but we're going to try to talk about this in a way that everybody gets a little bit of something, but feel free to write in. Susie B's already here with us. We love to hear from you. So feel free to write in. We love it when you share. We love it when you tag other people in the comments, especially on Facebook, because that helps other friends to find the show. And of course, the grand poobah of things that we love is when you review the show. So let's go ahead and get started with talking about summer success, because this is really, really important to me as a parent and as a former teacher, that summer is a time when you can make up ground. I will tell you as a former teacher that there is this thing that is very known in schools, that kids, all of them, will regress during the summer. Because if they don't have an educationally enriched environment all the time, they will regress. They will lose some of what they have learned during the year. So that's terrible, and we should stop that with everyone, but I will tell you, parent to parent, if you have a child who's trying to catch up, it is the ideal time to play tortoise in the hare and be the tortoise and keep moving, because you can make up ground. But you know what they say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So it's important that you make an agenda for yourself about what you want to do this summer. Now, I've given some suggestions about things that I think should be on the list, but you can decide for yourself and say, Shannon, you don't have travel on there. I want travel on there. It's your list, but this is just some suggestions of things that I put on the list in the past. And notice that the first one, not by accident at all, is to maximize fun. We should be doing that every day anyway. It's a hard one though, right? Because if you're in the mode of working and taking care of your family and you have a child on the spectrum and you're doing an intervention to support them and help them to grow and you've maximized that, sometimes the fun thing can slip away from you during the year because there's no time. We got to do laundry. We got to get to the store. We got to pick somebody up. We got to take them to speech. We got to take them to OT, right? And we can forget fun. I think we got to make sure we don't during the rest of the year, but 100% during summer, there is an opportunity to have a little bit more flexibility with the schedule. And I'm saying to you, do not back burner fun during the summer. Because I'll tell you what will happen. You will feel like Sally in The Great Pumpkin. Do you know how Sally, she's like, I'm going to go into the pumpkin patch and I'm going to see the great pumpkin and it's going to happen. It's absolutely going to happen. She doesn't go trick-or-treating. She doesn't get candy. She doesn't do whatever. The end of the evening comes and she falls asleep, no great pumpkin. And she says, I've been gypped. I didn't get to do Halloween. I missed all of the things. And you will feel like you were gypped, and your kids will feel like you were gypped if you don't enjoy the summer. I'm going to suggest that if you maximize the fun in the summer while doing the other things, it will help you to realize, wait a second, we could probably do this in April too, and we could do this in November. We have to remember to have fun. We only get this one life, right? And your kids only get to be kids once. And the truth of the matter is, I know some of you are like, wait a second, I can't believe I'm hearing this from you because you tell us all the time to maximize our ABA. And these things seem like they're on opposite platforms. They're not. Because if you're doing ABA at the best, you're making it the most fun. So we're going to maximize the fun, and I'm going to delve into this a little bit more. Can you full screen it though, Chris? Because I can't. It's my fault. So we're going to maximize fun. We're going to maximize learning. I'm going to go through each one of these in depth. We're going to target important skills. We're going to catch up. We're going to move the dial on one area that we've been avoiding. Now that's my list for the summer. From what I can remember in the years when we were doing the most intervention, and for my summer now. But I want to hear from you guys, like, what's missing on that list? I noticed that, because I'm traveling this summer, that travel is not on there. And that might be your thing. And I have parents all the time who say, well, you know, travel is very important to us as a family. I do want to say there is a time and a place for that. And parents sometimes say to me, well, you just, don't think vacation is important. No, I absolutely think vacation is important. However, when we prioritize things, I'm going to use the example of a family I know that their child was they had leukemia and they were going through chemotherapy. And the family vacation was still important to them. And they found a way to do a vacation that was 2 days long. And they did 4 of them across the summer so that it didn't interrupt with the chemotherapy. And it was understood by the whole family, we're going to do it slightly different this year because that's what's medically necessary. And I want to say to you that while, leukemia is not the same as autism, I'm not trying to make, a one-to-one comparison here. I do want to say that ABA is medically necessary treatment as well. And I do want to say that while, you're not, going to have the same effects from the chemotherapy as the ABA, which actually makes it easier to go on those short vacations, right? I don't want to overstate how important it is, because sometimes ABA is life-changing, life-saving for our kids. Our kids, the number one cause of death for individuals on the autism spectrum is drowning after escaping, and the second is being hit by a car after eloping. So it's important stuff. And how about just the ability to communicate? Can we prioritize that for a life? So do the vacations, but do them sensibly. For people who are taking an entire month off to go to another country, and they say to me, because I need to visit family, then I think you need to make arrangements for ABA to happen in that other country. I said that. And I know some of you hate me for that. It's not forever. It's not forever. And if we're going to make the summer agenda, you get to decide. If you decide that traveling and stopping medically necessary, if that is your choice, that is your choice. You are going to live with the consequences of that in the fall. And that is your choice to make. I got all preachy there. Did you notice? Anyway, but either way, I want you to maximize the fun. Okay, so let's go to the next slide here. Before we do anything, though, I think that it's really important not only to set the agenda so you have that plan, but I think it's important to make a schedule. And there's 2 sides to the schedule. There's the big schedule for the summer, which is all about you. You're going to make that schedule for yourself. It doesn't mean that the schedule can't be moved around. You can always move the schedule. You can always get up in the morning and go, I don't want to do that, right? But things are much more likely to happen if you make a schedule. And then the flip of that is that you want to make a visual schedule for your child. Look, the science is in. We know for sure that if our kids don't know what's coming, they have anxiety. Doesn't that make sense? Aren't we all that way? I'm that way. Aren't you that way? If I'm driving my car and for whatever reason my Waze can't work and my husband's got the directions and I don't know where we're going, I'm a nervous wreck. I'm like, tell me what's next. What stop is next? Even with Waze, I'm like, could you tell me a little bit earlier? I want to know where we're going. I want to know where I'm going. Your kids want to know that too. And when you stop and consider how much of the day they are being motored from this thing to that thing to the other thing, and that they often have no idea what's happening next. In fact, we see when kids start to gain language, one of the first questions that they ask is, where are we going? And what are we going to be doing? And when are we going home? That's, a sign that they are having anxiety about, I don't know. Dr. Grampiche always says, if somebody were to say to you, okay, you're going to work now, and you had no idea when your break was, and you had no idea when the end of the day was, how stressful would that be for you? Oh my gosh, it would be so stressful, right? So we want to take that off the plate for our kiddos. We want to make a visual schedule for our children. Now, let me give you a couple of examples of both of these things. I think one of the most successful summers we had was when my son, I think it was between first and second grade, maybe, and I made a schedule. And I sat down and I thought about what was important to us. The Nightmare at the Museum had come out and he loved that movie. So I said we needed to be doing more social things. It was on our list for our ABA team that he needed to be doing more play dates, more social things, and more things out in the community. So I sat down and looked at what day of the week did the Los Angeles museums and zoos and things tend to have the most freebie days. Free to the public. If you come on, it was Thursday. Not all of them, but there were a lot that were on Thursday. So I just sat down and said every Thursday, and I plunked in, okay, on this Thursday, we're going to go to the Noah's Ark exhibit at the Skirball. And on this Thursday, we're going to go to the Travel Town Train Museum. And on this Thursday, we're going to go to MoMA, which is the Museum of Modern Art. And on this Thursday, we're going to go to the Bob Barker Puppet Show. And on this Thursday, we're going to go to the beach. And every Thursday, there was a plan. And then I made a flyer, and I put information on it with my cell phone number and the addresses of where we were going and what time we were going to arrive. And in the last week of school, I handed them out to all the parents in the class. I didn't say you need to make a reservation with us, you need to be there by a certain time. I just said, I called it Thursdays with Jem. And I said, you're welcome to join us. You don't have to call me ahead of time, but if you have questions, you can call me. It was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. I was afraid I was going to be judged. I was afraid nobody was going to show up. I was afraid the entire class was going to show up, right? And I had no control over any of it, but I just put it out there. And then I also put it out to our friends and said, here's what we're doing, Thursdays with Jem. And sometimes I would post it on Facebook the night before. I think in today's world, I probably wouldn't do that. Hi, Rodney. I'm so glad you're here. So here's what happened, that we showed up at one of the first things, and a couple of the kids from his class were there, and they were like, hi, Jem. And Jem was so thrilled, and we had a beautiful day. And it was wonderful. And every single time that we went someplace, there was one or two. I think the maximum was that there were 3 kids from his class or his friends that just showed up. And it wasn't this big organization thing that I had feared that it was going to be, and it wasn't too much and it wasn't too little. And we had the best summer. So I encourage you, you don't have to make a schedule like that, although you could, but make something that makes sense for you. And for me, because I get overwhelmed very easily, one big outing a week was enough for me, right? But then for the rest of the days, I scheduled one fun thing a day. And we're going to talk more about that in just a second. But for the visual schedules, there are so many things that you have to choose from. If you're creative, think about how you would like to do this, and you can have a blast with it and be your new art project. I really encourage you, and we can go ahead to the next slide, that Pinterest and Etsy have so many things for you to choose from. This one that I'm showing on the screen there is from Etsy, and I think it was $1.70. There are a lot of teachers and therapists and creative people who love to make this kind of artwork for you. So check it out, and it's just a side gig for them. They charge like $1, and you for the file, you get it, you print it out, you cut it out, and you can rearrange the buttons on it. You can do all kinds of things. But if you'll go to Pinterest and just put in visual schedule, oh, you will see so many things and ideas. And some of them you can purchase. All of them you can copy for yourself to make it exactly right. I meant to bring in, for my son, especially when he was older, we had a schedule, and again, it hung inside our kitchen cabinet. So it wasn't out where everybody could see it, but we had little Velcro tabs on these little pieces of paper that were laminated, and he could pick all of these different things. And this is when he was older, and he could make the schedule. I had the times of the day, and he could plunk something in to fit it into the schedule. But swimming was always on the schedule, right? And then he could say what time he wanted to go swimming. I can't tell you enough how important it is to give them choices. And especially when it's something fun. Then other things he could choose, what did he want the big fun thing to do, but we always had swimming on there. So it's essential to have a visual schedule for your kids. Now, if you're just like, Shannon, I have no creativity and I have very little money and I want you to make this as easy for me as possible. Okay, you go to a dollar store. I know the 99-cent store doesn't exist anymore. You go to a store that's dollar store or just cheap, and you get a roll of wrapping paper, right? That's $1. And you have a magic marker or crayons, right? You probably already have crayons. And you roll out a piece of the wrapping paper. The fun thing about cheap wrapping paper is on the back side, it's white. And you tape that to the wall, white side out, and you just, with your magic marker or crayon, make sure that if it's a magic marker, it's not going through the wall. We don't want that, right? But and your child can draw on there and write on there, and you make the schedule, and you can do that day by day. It'll cost you pennies to make the big schedule. But there are some fun ones on a cookie sheet that they're magnetic. Oh my gosh. There are some that you can get on your phone. There's so many ways to make the schedule. So, but make a schedule. The reason why, and I know we don't want to do it. I didn't want to do it either. But I'm going to remind you that the reason why is because it will ratchet your child's anxiety down. Is it going to make a little bit of anxiety for you in the beginning to make it and get used to it? Yeah, but it's going to be worth it when you see the anxiety go down. And our kids are very prone to anxiety. So anything we can do to boop that number down, we want to do it. The visual schedule, I'm telling you, it's better than Prozac. Okay? Ratchet that anxiety down. And let them have choices about what they want to do and in what order they want to do, within reason, right? The whole day can't be eat ice cream cones. Right? It just can't be. But it's little and it can only fit in one little slot. Okay. So no matter what you're doing, make the schedule. And I know sometimes it's so hard because you go, well, we're just going to take a day and we're going to freeform and we're going to do whatever we want. I know we all want that. But then your kids fall apart at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and you're like, what happened? Because they don't know what's happening. Even on a day when you want to freeform, like take a napkin or something and just say, first we're going to do this and then we're going to do this. And when your child starts to go, but what's happening, give them a little bit more direction about what's going to happen. It will help them and ultimately it will help you. Okay, so now that we know no matter what, we're going to have an agenda, we're going to have a schedule for ourselves, and we're going to do a visual schedule for our kiddos. Visual schedules, by the way, notice on the one that's up there, there's a picture, a drawing, right, with the word underneath. That's really good. That's primo. You may not have time for that every day, but that's primo, because our kiddos start to recognize what the symbol is. Oh, that's a bed, and we start to recognize that says make bed underneath it. We're associating the thing with the text. It's really, really good. As your kids get older, you get rid of as they're reading, it's just text, right? But in the beginning, we're going to make it as, visually exciting and as accessible for them as possible. But even when your kids are older, until you get to the point when they are doing it on the phone for themselves, it really helps to have a visual schedule that says the text on it and we're following it along. By the way, this is how they do it in the classrooms all the time now. If you walk into your child's classroom and there is not a schedule of what today looks like with the different things, I would talk to your teacher because they're not reading the research. That's in every classroom now. Okay, so we know we're going to make a schedule, and I'm just begging you to try it. Just try it for 1 week, and then you can say to me, Shannon, I hate it, whatever, but you'll see you will be so thrilled with the difference it makes with your child. Okay, let's go on to maximizing the fun. I really think it's important to find one thing every day to throw on the schedule, one thing, not 32 things, one thing every day. Down the middle here, I know there's just so much text on this slide. Down the middle, I wrote some suggestions of things like just getting out in the sun, being a part of nature, doing something that's socialization, focusing on their area of interest, doing something as the family, and then museums and libraries. Because those are, just like easy. But then down the sides, I was like, well, let's brainstorm a little bit more about this, but I'll bet you guys can think of 35 other things. How about doing an art project? We have on our YouTube a whole series. Oh my gosh, I'm just drawing a blank now in terms of what it's called. With Suzanne Oshinsky, and it was all the skills things. Smarty. Smarty is what it's called. And it's art. It's smart art. That's why it's called Smarty. And there's probably 24 of them, and they're little activities that you can do mostly with things you have around the house. If nothing else, go and check those out. Like they teach you how to make bowling ball and bowling pins out of water bottles and food coloring. I mean, and it's so much fun, and your kid can get involved and easy enough to do. But also on Pinterest, there's tons of art projects. I remember one that we love to do because we used to get like all of the newspapers. We don't anymore, but we had all these newspapers that were always needing to be recycled. And if you get duct tape, you can take newspapers, roll them up, put the duct tape around them, and use them to mold like all kinds of shapes. You make sculptures out of them. It was so much fun. But you can have your kids go to a drama, like some performance of something that's a play. Look around in your local area. They do all kinds of kids' summer theater in the parks and places like that. Or you can have them do a class. Sometimes they have a free class someplace. One of the things on the list is to check out the schedule at your local library. Your local library has activities that are meant for different age group kids. Oh my gosh, we took such advantage of that. Like 1 week in the summer, they would have a magician come in. It's free, y'all. And you check out the books while you're there and take a couple of books home. It's a wonderful thing. My son took his first chess class at the local library, and then they had a chess group that you could come. They had a Minecraft group at his local library. We saw performances of puppets and all kinds of things. So check all of that out. I need it full screened again, Chris. I'm sorry. I should have it in front of me too. What about going to concerts? I love taking our kids to outdoor concerts because they're allowed to fidget and make a little bit of noise, and everybody's a little bit more understanding than if you're going to a full-fledged, concert. But take them to see, look in your local area. I know here in Los Angeles, I know we're losing Dudamel now, but Dudamel, it was so important to him. He's our big conductor of the LA Phil. It was so important to him that kids came to concerts. So they had specially priced concerts, and our kids were allowed to be kids. There are camps that are 1 day, 1 week. Check them out in your neighborhood. How about just taking an afternoon and going to see a movie? Community events, church events, hiking, horseback riding, swimming is a big one. I really encourage you to be teaching your children how to swim, teach them how to do water safety, teach them and a lot of times in your local area, they will have swimming lessons. And if you ask them about for special needs kids, often they're half price. So ask, and sometimes the swimming instructor has a grant from someone to teach kids on the spectrum. So always ask, don't be shy about that. But it's absolutely critical that all of our kids learn how to float. Critical, critical, critical. And not only that, you need to make sure that they're being taught how to float fully clothed with their shoes on. Let's talk about this for just a second. I mentioned before, number one cause of death for individuals on the spectrum is drowning. And it's not because, they were having a good time in the pool. It's because a lot of times they love the sensory of the pool, or they love the colors on the top. They fall in and they're fully clothed and they can't help themselves. I don't want that to be anybody's story this summer. So critical that children learn how to turn over and float on their back, and it's absolutely essential that you must teach it clothes on, shoes on. If you have a pool and it's your wonderful pool and your child knows that you have a pool, you have a couple of different choices about how to maximize safety for your pool. Either get a gate. They have gates now that they can make that are removable so that if you're having people over, you can remove the gate, right? But if no one's out there watching the pool, you either need to have some sort of a gate situation and or the alarm. There is a specific kind of alarm that you can get that if anything more than it's like a jug of milk falls into the pool, the alarm will go off. Now everybody tells me, oh, it's so annoying because a raccoon fell in our swimming pool and it went off at 2 o'clock in the morning and we all woke up. I just want to say to you, I personally know somebody whose child drowned. You know what? You'll get more sleep another night. Get that pool alarm and don't turn it off. It is sensitive enough that it will alert you if any child, your child or any child, falls into the water, but it's not going to get set off if a leaf blows, right? Get the pool alarm. Let's not be sorry about that. And teach your child how to float. But swimming is a great activity for our children. It helps them to regulate. There's something sensory about the pressure of the water that we know is great. They're the colors. It is a break for them, and it also wears them out. It's a full body thing. It involves crossing the midline, which is so good for our kids. Please, 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 if you have the opportunity, have your kids swim, but prioritize teaching them how to swim and prioritize alarms. If there are neighbors that have pools, we can't legislate what they do with their pools. Put alarms on your doors so that if your child leaves, you know, and you know where to look, okay? But also there's sporting events during the summer that it's really good for your child to be involved with things that are physical and out in the sun, and there's a socialization aspect to that. Most sport things have a division that is specifically for special needs kids, and most of them have things in place, policies in place for our kids to be included in their regular activities. All of the soccer, ASYO, is that, I don't know what the letters are. They have a special needs division and they have a plan for your child to be included, whichever path you think. I will tell you that if you're with the special needs kids, they don't prioritize winning, excuse me, it's just not a part of the thing. When you're with the typical kids, you get the parents who are like, well, I want to win and we only put in the best players, and you have to decide how much of that you want to deal with. That's up to you, right? But sports is a great thing for our kids. It's a great leveler. Sometimes our kids are great at them. Sometimes they're not, but it's okay. You're learning winning and losing and being part of a team and schedules and practice and rehearsals and all of those things. It's very good for our kids. By the way, it's very good for the kids in the community too. That's nothing to be snubbed at. Let's go ahead and full screen it again so I can read down the other side. Play dates are definitely a thing that we want to be maximizing during the summer. Sometimes taking lessons, whether it's if there's an area of interest like taking piano lessons or any kind of a music instrument, but anything, art lessons. Shopping is absolutely a fun and essential thing we should be doing and making it be fun during the summer. I know people say to me, oh, well, that's just girls. It is not. Sometimes boys like to shop too, and more importantly, sometimes they need to shop, right? So going shopping, how about playing make-believe or making a movie? So many of our kids get into YouTube at a certain age. If you've got a kiddo who's into YouTube, don't let them just sit there all summer and watch YouTube. Say to them, okay, you need to make a movie for YouTube. Let's, and get out the piece of wrapping paper and get on the back and have them sort of, script it out and then shoot the movie and have them edit it. There's all kinds of free software. You can do it on your phone. Oh, it's so much fun. And I know some of you are going to say, oh my gosh, but that's for older kids who are a little bit more advanced. I don't know. I can remember my son, we gave him one of our old Kodak cameras when he was 3, And he just ran around and took pictures of everything. And he learned for himself that he could put it on a certain mode and he could take a film. So the next thing I knew, he was setting up his little, figures, minifigures, and making a movie. We have one of the little 3-minute movies that he made where he stuck one of his minifigures into this airplane that he had, and he could barely speak. You could hear him saying, "Nake, Nake, Nake on a plane, Nake on a plane," because he was saying snake on the plane. You know what I mean? So make a movie. It's a good time. How about having your child volunteer? A lot of the dog shelters have a thing right now where you can go in and read to the dogs. And if your child can already read, have them go in and read to a dog. Or if they can't read, how about if you go with them and you read to your child and the dog? It's a fabulous thing. There are many organizations that do stargazing. I just got a notification this morning, in fact, in Los Angeles that there's a date coming up, and I think it's called Dark Nights Los Angeles. And all these people who have big powered telescopes pick a place where they meet. And we went to one of these many years ago. And they have specific nights you go, and my son got to look through somebody's telescope and he got to see the rings on Saturn. It was free. You got to love that. So stargazing. How about gardening? Having them plant something and watching it grow and then eat whatever comes from it, as long as it's a edible thing. Cooking, great time to do that. Going to zoos, and I can't even, fitness. Any kind of fitness. Running track is a great thing for it. So all of these things, though, are meant to be fun. You have to think about, what does your child like? What do you like? What can you do together that is fun? Wonderful, wonderful thing. But then we want to talk about, no matter what we're doing, we want to inject this level of fun into it, right? But one thing every day, there should be one, and it could be 3 minutes long, you guys. It could be 3 minutes long, but there has to be one thing that's fun. It could be that all day is fun, but don't try to do all of these things in one day. You'll be exhausted by day 2. So one big fun thing a day. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Now we're going to maximize learning. And when we maximize learning, what we do is we make every waking hour an educationally enriched environment. Now, how do you do that? And I've had a friend yell at me before about, she's like, "You're a teacher, so this comes naturally." I'm not a teacher. I don't think like this. And I just want to say, I got you on this, but let's start at the core. For many of you, you have funding for ABA for a certain number of hours for your child. And if you have not already been maximizing those hours, I want to encourage you to do that. And while your child is engaged in that, either one of two things: either be doing it with them so that you're learning it, or have them be at the center or wherever they need to be, and you go take a break. This is also about your summer as well. But let's make sure your child is someplace that's educationally enriched so that you can take that break. The thing with maximizing your hours during the summer for ABA is that you have a bank of hours and you have them for a period of time. It used to be that we had them per week, right? But most of the funding sources now do it per 6 months, 3 months in some cases, but most of it is 6 months. So, and maybe that winnows down to that your child is getting 20 hours of ABA a week. But, some stuff came up, your child got sick, your child missed a session here, missed a session there. It wasn't the best possible thing, but it's what happened. Or maybe your teen had to cancel on you because the behavior technician got sick and hours were missed. Well, let's use them. I would be on the door of the ABA place saying, how many extra hours do I have, and can we maximize the hey nani nani out of them over the summer? You will find that the best centers have activities that, like, every week is a different thing. Like 1 week is dinosaur week, right? Or 1 week is, whatever, Harry Potter week. And they have, it's like camp, but they're doing ABA and your child is literally catching up. So if every waking hour has to be an educationally enriched environment for our kiddos, and you have a funding source that says, I'm going to pay for professionals to make it fun and educational for your child, I just want to say to you, why would you say no to that? Why on earth would you say no to that? Well, you've got to drive them there, you've got to, but if it's what's going to catch your child up and it gives you a break, come on now, walk with me, maximize those hours. Use every little bit of them. Don't leave anything on the table. But then beyond that, how do you make the rest of the hours educationally enriched environment? Well, one of the things that we can do is ask for worksheets from the school. You know, what should my child be working on before the school year is over? And it's one of the things I'm going to talk about on Monday. You know, have a little meeting with the teacher after school and say, what are some things that we can do? Now, a lot of you write in and tell me, well, my child is doing extended school year. That's what the ESY is. Okay, let's talk about that for a second. It's not that it's a terrible thing. I used to teach ESY. It's not terrible, but you need to understand what it is and what it isn't. If you need for your child to review concepts that were happening last year because they didn't quite get them, then ESY is a possibility of something that could be advantageous. But you just need to understand they're only going to review stuff that happened last year. They're not going to do any, child is not going to have a single new concept introduced, and they're not going to learn any new skill. They're just going back over the things that they didn't get. Now, there's a time and a place for that, and that's important, but it's not for everyone. And if our child is significantly behind on language, I don't think it's the best use of time. I don't. And I'm a former teacher who used to teach this. So it's individual for each and every one of you, but just know extended school year is for the children who are expected to lose more than 20% of what was taught during the school year. It is only review. I would rather be having you do something where we're introducing new concepts for the year that also reviews what was done and builds on what was done before. That to me is a more effective use of time if we're really trying to catch your child up. And you can do that yourself, or you can do it with tutoring, or you can do it with khanacademy.com. There are so many different choices, but I love khanacademy.com. If there is something that you know, let's say that your child was in 4th grade this last year and they just were not getting the fraction thing. Rather than put your child in ESY, I would rather see you maximize your ABA hours, and part of your day on your schedule will be Khan Academy. And for Khan Academy, you will start with fractions. You will go in and they have a thing. And by the way, you can sign up for an account for you and an account for your child where you can see everything that they're doing. But for your child's account, you would go in and you would go to 4th grade. And they have it all there for you, what the standards are, and you would go to the fractions section and you would start with the first lesson. And the way that Khan Academy is free, and the way that they teach things is they show like a 1-minute video that's really entertaining, and they go, here's the concept of this very small amount of stuff. It's very ABA aligned. Very small thing we're going to teach you, and then we're going to build on it, right? So they teach it for like a minute, and then they have an activity for them to do that's fun where they try to apply it. And if they get it, it allows them to move on. If they don't get it, it goes over the example in a different way with a different lesson. So it paces the learning to the child. I know. Can we have angels singing? And it's free. Did I mention it's free? Khan, Khan, academy.com. Guess who turned me on to this? Temple Grandin. Okay, so, but what it'll do is that it will catch them up on what they didn't know so much faster, but then it progresses them further than they went at school, and now they're ready for 5th grade concepts. I know. So much more effective, I think, than doing extended school year. My opinion, it's not the same for all kids. You have to decide for yourself. But I would rather see them be excited in learning something than back in the old classroom where they didn't learn it the first time. But there are so many other things that you can do to maximize learning, and one of them is playing games. Oh my gosh. Play games, board games like Monopoly, but also video games. There are great video games that are out there. I swear to you that my son learned how to spell from playing Scribble Knots. This is a video game where you have this character and he's going through the woods and he's going places and he comes across a problem. And in order to solve the problem, You have to spell what the thing is that he needs to solve the problem. You're working on problem solving and spelling. I remember we were in the car when he was in like 3rd grade, and he was like, "Mom, how do you spell sarcophagus?" And I was like, "What's happening right here?" It's great. And it's just one game. There are tons. If you just like go on to Pinterest and say video games to teach blank, right? And they will make all kinds of suggestions for you. But even watching movies. How about watching a movie that, like the first one that comes to mind is Harriet, where you learn about Harriet Tubman, learn about a person in history in a really fascinating way to do it. But also, there are other movies that you can watch and just, like, it could be anything, any Disney movie, and say, okay, so who was the main character in that movie? And what was the main problem that they had to solve, right? You're teaching thesis and plot and all of these things. So you can make anything an educationally enriched environment. I love the idea of writing a book with your child. You can do this with any child, any age, any ability, because you're helping them to do it. And you help them to make choices, and you put the book together, and you can take it to Kinko's and get it all bound and everything. Kids love this. And then have them illustrate their book. Ooh, good times. They can take a class. We talked about that before. Visit an aquarium, zoos, same thing. See a planetarium show. They learn so much doing that. How about the entrepreneurial side of things? Doing a lemonade stand and having them teach about being customer service and taking the money and, and mixing the lemonade and planning ahead and all that stuff. Or starting a different kind of business. We've seen even very little kids decide that they're going to start a business and sell something. It's very good skills for them. What about writing fan letters? You need to get your child writing. Well, let's pick somebody. Maybe they're going to write a letter to their favorite cartoon character. And you actually go through the process of mailing it off. You might be surprised that sometimes you can get a letter back from somebody that will make the whole summer. I mentioned the reading to dogs before. Making maps. Maps are a great thing to do. Reading maps, but also making a map. Make a map of your backyard. Make a treasure map and bury something in your backyard. Boy, all the little pistons in your children's brains are going to go, this is fun. Not only playing video games, but how about designing a video game? They have this so accessible now. There are very inexpensive programs that you can do where they can animate or make a video game for themselves. Amazing. Or I love programming a robot. If you go to your local library or look in your neighborhood to see Lego and First Robotics, FIRST Robotics, have programs all over the country. And if they don't have one where you are, look at starting one. But it goes all the way from pre-K up through college age, and it gets more difficult as they go up, and there are more competitions and more scholarships as they get older. But they get to build robots at the level that they're at, and oh my gosh, what an amazing thing. I used to think, where are all the kids who had, good ABA and have progressed so far, and where did all those kids go after they graduated from ABA? Where would I find them so that my kid can hang out with them? And then I went to my first robotics tournament and I went, oh, they're all here. They're all here, and they're all being celebrated as engineers and getting ready to get scholarships to go off to college. It's a good time too. But sometimes your local library has it, sometimes your local school has it. Check it out. It is amazing, and it shouldn't cost you a penny. So those are just some ideas, but every single minute you're in the car and you're going someplace with your child, you can sit there in silence, that's a choice, or you could turn on the radio and you could be singing with them, and singing activates the brain. That's an educationally enriched environment, right? But get them involved in it. Or, you can keep the radio off and you can be looking around and say, I spy with my little eye. So now your child is looking at the environment. We used to do a thing when we were not on a freeway with the lights, that I would say, oh, what color is the light and what does it mean? What do I need to do right now? And if we were stuck at a red light, I don't know what, we're just weird. But we did a thing where if we were stuck at a red light and it turned green, he would say, go, 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 right? But if it was a red light and it was taking forever, we would say, oh, you have to laugh at it in order to change it. And so we would do our fake pretend big laugh to make the light change. You're keeping your child engaged, and that's really important. Now, you can't do that all the time. That's why I'm saying maximize the hours that you have professionals doing it. But then in the times that you need to cook, go to the bathroom, need a break, whatever, we want to make sure that they're still doing something that feeds their brain. So that is when you want to pull in the technology and do things of that nature, or have somebody else take them to be making that educationally enriched. Okay, I got to pedal to the metal here. Next one, please. Target important skills. So I remember one summer that a parent said to me, we just don't have time during the rest of the school year to deal with this, but I want my child to go foot over foot up the stairs and foot over foot down the stairs. And that was the thing that she said, okay, we're going to target that. And they did. And within like 3 weeks, her child was able to do that. And she said to me, Shannon, this is absolutely life-changing. Absolutely life-changing. And that lit mom's fire to say, okay, what else can we be doing next? So pick things that are really important. I don't know if I've got it on the next slide or not, but there are, things like potty training, things that you just don't have the time for the rest of the school year, when everything is just pick things that are really important to you. And I would only pick 1 or 2 to start with. Talk to your team, target that. Maybe it's that you think to yourself, oh my gosh, if we could just get them to be able to swallow pills, our whole life would be better, right? So pick those kinds of things. I also think it's important to look ahead to the following year and go, what's important? I remember the summer that I said to the teacher, what does he need to know for next year? And she was like, you got to get a jump on the multiplication tables, because it takes him a little while longer, but once he gets it, he excels. So we spent the summer on the multiplication tables. Target what is important. Let's go ahead and go on to the next slide, because we're running out of time. This is the time to catch up, and I think the biggest single thing that you can do to catch your child up is to read to, with, or listen to them read to you every day. Every day. We made this a part of our bedtime ritual, that there was always a reading time in the beginning. I read to him. I made it interactive. I love the Usborne books that there's the duck on every page, but we just made every book that kind of a book. So I'd be reading and I would go, where's the dog? Can you point to the dog? And he would point to the dog and I would go, good job. And I would say, where's the tree? And he would point to the tree and then we would turn the page. You keep them engaged, right? Later on, you have a book where it has the words and then it has a picture. So you say what it is first, but the more you read, and by the way, you read the same book many, many, many times, right? So that they anticipate it and you say, what is it? It's a cabin. Right? So they start to recognize it. Eventually you have them read one word when you're doing sight words. Then you have them read the sentence. Then you have them read a paragraph. Then you have them read a page while you're doing the rest of it, right? And then eventually it's that they're reading to you out loud. Reading out loud is a skill that will serve them the rest of their lives. It makes connections in the brain that I can't begin to talk about here, but it's so worthwhile to be read to and to read to. Please do that on a daily basis. If there are things that you need to do, tutoring. What else? What else do you need to catch up on? You can do it during this time. Let's go on to the next slide. My last thing on my agenda list was move the dial on one thing you've been avoiding. Now, this may or may not have something to do with your child. You may have a closet in your house that is just kicking your can and it's a shame cycle. And you're like, I can't. But maybe during the summer, you can move the dial on it. I'm not asking you to get the whole closet done. I'm saying move the dial on one thing that you've been avoiding. Maybe it's a funding thing. I remember that there were several summers where everybody was like, you need respite, Shannon. And I was like, I don't have the time to fill out the paperwork so that I can have the respite, right? You pick one thing and you move the dial. And maybe moving the dial is saying to somebody else, can you help me with this? Because I'll tell you that one of the things that it does is it makes you remember that change is possible. Change is possible, and it doesn't have to happen overnight. It can happen a little bit at a time, right? But that if we give up and go, well, I'm never going to get to that closet, that's just one example, right? It could be, maybe there's a bill that you've got a bill collector calling you. I certainly had that. And that you finally have to make the call to say, what is the deal? Can I make, a $5 a month payment, right? And supposedly they have to take the $5 a month payment. I don't know. But moving the dial so that it's just that much less stressful for you. And again, this may or may not have something to do with your child. I think let's go to the next slide, which is the one I was looking for a minute ago. So on the moving the dial thing, what's on your list? Here are some possibilities. Diet, dental work, potty training, having kids do their own laundry, teaching them how to drive if they're older, diction, turning tantrums around, multiplication tables, maybe getting your child an EEG because they're having moments where they kind of glitch out and they're not there for a moment, and somebody has said, you probably better get an EEG. How about doing a sleep study or starting supplements? Remember to start one at a time. Sleeping in their own bed. Maybe that's the thing that we need to target this summer, sleeping through the night or self-regulation. These are just some of the things that potentially could be the thing either that you need to target or that it's the one thing that you got to move the dial on. So I think that's the last slide. I hope that some of this helped you to go, okay, I hope it didn't make you overwhelmed. But just to realize, I think of it as this giant, beautiful deck of cards that, you got 52 cards in the deck, and which one do you want to pick first? And to see the summer as an adventure, but it's an opportunity. When our kids have an amazing summer, it changes everything. I can look back over some of the summers that we had and go, oh my gosh, it was just miraculous leaps and bounds what we did in the summer. And each year it was something different. I want to say that there was one summer that it was very important to us that we sent him to. It was only for 2 weeks, but it was a gymnastics camp because we needed to get him moving a little bit, and we saw that he had a lot of energy and we needed to get the yayas out. And he went to this gymnastics camp, and I went the first day, and then after that we had him go with one of his BTs. But the change that we saw in him in 2 weeks, the confidence that he had in his body, that he understood how to move his body in a different way, it was a game changer. It was an absolute game changer. One summer, the game changer for us was that he was on a medication that I don't think we would have tried during the school year, but he was on the medication during the summer, and it was to break his yeast overgrowth. That was the one right before kindergarten, and the difference set him up for an amazing kindergarten year. So later on, I was just saying this yesterday, that there was a summer that we wanted to work on his hand-eye coordination because he was having a visual problem, and so we decided to do drawing on the right side of the brain, which is an amazing book, and there are all these drawing exercises, and it's for adults, so he and I did it together, and game changer. So I really think of summer as this amazing time where amazing, miraculous things can happen. But if you don't plan it, it doesn't happen, right? All of a sudden you'll blink and the summer is half over and you're like, what happened? We didn't get done what I wanted to. So I always say, what Dr. Phil says, you have to name it to claim it. What do you want this summer? Dream for a second about, okay, if we could end the summer and my child could be here, what would that be? So what would I have to put on the agenda? And I will say, if one of the things that you're saying right now is that I want my child to be able to talk more, please, please, please maximize those ABA hours and make every verbal utterance during the summer the most fun. Get in the pool and have your child be paddling, and while they're paddling, ask them a question. That builds the neuron system in your child's brain. They're moving and saying something, and they're getting a reward at the same time. So I hope that you will take this and fit it to your life how you want to do. so that you can have summer success. Let's talk a little bit about the rest of this week. Tomorrow on the show, we're having the Best of Autism Live with an episode with Dr. Temple Grannon. You can't beat that. On Friday, it's the Best of Dr. Doreen, and she's talking, it's the show that we did about when you're pretty sure something's missing. You've tried everything, but it feels like something's missing. And we're going to talk about, with Dr. Granpiche, what that might be, because that missing thing might lead to a whole bunch of progress. So that's the rest of this week. On Monday, we're doing another parent-to-parent of how to finish out this school year, how to get your IEP set up for the fall, how to close out the school year so that your child's happy and you have context for the summer. But also, I'm going to give you my personal secret for the best possible gift that you can give to your teachers and your aides, and it's free. And it will set you up for success. So that will be on Monday. Then on Tuesday, we have something special for the next couple of weeks because we don't have Dr. Granpiche for the next 2 weeks. So we have Ask Evelyn Kung. You guys remember Evelyn Kung. We've had her amazing autism expert. And on Tuesday, the subject will be motor skills. Then on Wednesday, Matt Asner is going to be here with us. That's the 15th. He's going to be talking about their amazing academy and the Ed Asner Poker Tournament, which is happening on June 15th. He's going to tell us about some of the stars. One of them, I'm like, oh, okay. It's very exciting. So that will be on Wednesday. Then on Thursday, we are going to have one of the Best of Autism Live. And it is the talk that we did about when the school says your child doesn't qualify for an IEP, even though you already got the autism diagnosis. We just save ourselves and talk about how we battle that. Then on Friday, for the Best of Ask Dr. Doreen, we are talking about how, just what we were talking about before, how do we make every single moment an educationally enriched environment? So that's the rest of this week and next week. And then wait till you hear what's happening the week after that. It's off the chain, off the chain. So all of that coming up to you. I love, Susie B said, diet change is a huge one for us this summer. Absolutely. Great time to change things. Because when you change the diet things, sometimes the intestinal thing takes a couple of days to catch up. And you might, it's so much easier during the summer. It's so much easier. So good one, good one. All right, you guys, thank you so much for being here. We'll see you tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much. See you next time.